I want to thank you all for coming, those of you who are here in the live broadcast, and thank all of those in the cloud who are listening in the video we'll put up on YouTube as soon as possible. My name's Stuart Scott, and I'm the host today, coming to you live from the climate negotiations, COP25 in Madrid, Spain. Here's a contact address that you can get in touch with myself or at least one of my guests. Today's guests, first I have with me Dan Galpern, who's an environmental attorney, a legal advisor to James Hansen, among other climate-related parties. And I invited him to be here today as a moderating influence on my decorum because the subject matter gets me so plugged in. Today's other guest, our virtual guest, is Donald Trump. We'll have plenty of Donald Trump, more than I want to stomach, who is unfortunately President of the United States, or I call it the kleptocratic states of America. In today's program, Rollbacks, the Menace of Donald Trump. Now, Rollbacks is a half-hour movie. Instead of showing the whole movie, we want to show clips, and we want to drive an audience to the movie, which is free, a free download. I encourage people to watch it, share it, download it, and have viewing parties or put it in major events. This is what we're protecting, not just humans, not just civilization or the EU, not just the wealthy corporations who are going to go down with everyone else if we go down. We're trying to protect life on Earth, and there's some question as to whether life on Earth will continue if we push to 8 degrees, 10 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times. Now, as I said, the theme here is this movie, Rollbacks An Assault Against Life on Earth. That's the subtitle of the movie. And at the end, I'll show links where it can be downloaded and watched. For the first clip, I will presage it by saying this is about Hellfire and the devil, the beginning of this movie.
Easy, easy, can't see, just go easy now, easy.
Dad, the car's heating up, it's gonna explode. Oh, Jesus, God, help us.
In order to fulfill my solemn duty to protect America and its citizens, the United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord Thank you. So we're getting out.
That sets the tone for the entire movie. This man is a threat to the planet, as is his corporate-owned Republican Party. They have done a huge disservice to both humanity and all of life on Earth. That I'm not cursing yet is because I have an attorney sitting next to me who's ready to kick me under the table. And they've done all this for the sake of money. Make no mistake, Trump, he's got a particular personality aberration, perhaps, where he does it for fame and to be disagreeable. I grew up a couple of miles away from where Donald Trump grew up, and the story in the hood, in the neighborhood, was that he got kicked out of a couple of the schools locally, and so his parents put him in a military academy where they'd tolerate him as long as parents paid. And his initials became the acronym for serving detention at the military academy. He's pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Accord, but then why does he send a negotiating team to impede progress? Where's that at? And the answer? His depravity, contempt for the natural world, and his devotion to his corporate clients. Quite simple. He's not, according to that lie he just told, trying to protect the American people. That's very clear.
Coal burning is the major cause of global warming. The carbon that smokestacks put into the air today stays in the air and accumulates. It will still be contributing to warming more than 100 years from now. Coal smoke produces tiny sulfate particles that turn deadly when they penetrate into the lungs and enter the bloodstream, contributing to respiratory disease, heart attacks, strokes, and asthma, especially in children and in older people.
Never knew we had asthma. There's no asthma in my family. But then here's my 5-year-old granddaughter who has it ever since she was 2. I have a grandbaby that's 1 and an infant that has asthma that needs to be on a nebulizer. Watching my kids not being able to breathe is hard because it can kill you.
Over the past 3 decades, nationwide asthma rates have more than doubled. And climate change puts those Americans at greater risk of landing in the hospital. As one of America's governors has said, we're the first generation to feel the impact of climate change and the last generation that can do something about it. And that's why I committed the United States to leading the world on this challenge, because I believe there is such a thing as being too late. And today we're here to announce America's Clean Power Plan, a plan 2 years in the making, and the single most important step America has ever taken in the fight against global climate change.
But since taking office, the Trump administration has been working to undo the Clean Power Plan and revitalize the coal industry.
I guess they like what we're about to sign. Huh? First, today's Energy Independence Action calls for an immediate reevaluation of the so-called Clean Power Plan. Perhaps no single regulation threatens our miners, energy workers, and companies more than this crushing attack on American industry. Second, we are lifting the ban on federal leasing for coal production. Third, we are lifting job-killing restrictions on the production of oil, natural gas, clean coal, and shale energy. My administration is putting an end to the war on coal. We're going to have clean coal, really clean coal. Okay.
A lie repeated many times does not become the truth. So-called clean coal only exists in the minds of those who deceive for the sake of money. The Republican Party exists for the sake of money. They're corporate donors. They've learned how to convince the public that they're for the public, when in fact they're for the corporations.
The Trump administration has taken its third major step to roll back the regulations that are meant to curb the greenhouse gases that cause global warming and climate change. The Environmental Protection Agency today issued new rules making it easier for oil and gas companies to release methane, which is a particularly potent greenhouse gas.
Methane is a heat-trapping gas that is leaked from oil and gas wells. As a cause of global warming, it is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Methane is invisible to the naked eye, but can be detected by infrared cameras. The U.S. oil and gas industry emits 13 million metric tons of methane each year, nearly 60% more than industry estimates, and enough to offset much of the climate benefits of burning natural gas instead of coal. But since the 2016 elections, industry lobbyists have persuaded the Trump administration to eliminate the Obama-era rules that curb and monitor the release of methane into the atmosphere.
Now I have to make a clarification, slight correction. at least in the minds of those listening to the movie. While methane is 20 to 30 times as powerful a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide over a 100-year time frame, averaged over 100 years, it's about 80 to 90 times as powerful over a 20-year time frame, which is much more meaningful in terms of the climate emergency we're experiencing. Let's switch to endangered species.
The Trump administration announced today it's rolling back parts of the Endangered Species Act, weakening rules meant to protect threatened animals. White House officials say it's part of the effort to ease regulations on businesses and industries like mining, oil drilling, and development. The New York Times reports it this way, quote, "The changes will make it harder to consider the effects of climate change on wildlife when deciding whether a given species warrants protection. They would most likely shrink critical habitats and, for the first time, would allow economic assessments to be conducted when making determinations."
You look at the environmental impact statements, they're just nonsense, okay, just total nonsense. There's a highway in a state not so far away. The road was a dead straight road, dead straight, so that if you had a rough night, you can go straight. Now it's a road that goes this way because of nesting, different things nesting. Who the hell knows what's nesting, but whatever it is. So the road ends up being twice as long and curving like hell, and unless you're 100% sharp, you're in deep trouble.
Now, I want to interrupt my own flow here and move a challenge that I was preparing for the end to make it now. I'm challenging Donald Trump to a debate over climate change, over biodiversity, and whatever subjects he wants to bring in. Make that public challenge. Hopefully it rings in his ears somehow. The callousness of this man is just astonishing and revolting. His handlers pack signing ceremonies and rallies with true believers who seem to enjoy his every utterance, no matter how divorced from reality. He was a reality TV star, you'll recall, who could create his own reality in his programs. And his words, his tagline famously was, "You're fired." This man somehow cheated, lied, hoodwinked the public into becoming president of the United States. And let me point out that the Republican Party had done a lot of gerrymandering of districts to help make that possible and to help get their candidates elected in local and state elections. They've been planning this for quite a while. This is a long-term strategy. If he's not a menace to humanity, then I don't know what is.
For decades, ANWR, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, has been a federally protected, unspoiled, awe-inspiring landscape open to backpackers and hunters, but off-limits for drilling and mining. The Trump administration will now open up all 19 million acres to the oil and gas industry.
The Arctic is at the forefront of opportunity and abundance. It houses 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of its undiscovered gas, and an abundance of uranium, rare earth minerals, gold, diamonds, and millions of square miles of untapped resources. And its centerpiece, the Arctic Ocean, is rapidly taking on new strategic significance. Steady reductions in sea ice are opening new passageways and new opportunities for trade. This could potentially slash the time it takes to travel between Asia and the West by as much as 20 days.
One day, a friend of mine who's in the oil business called, "Is it true that you have Anwar in the bill? I said, I don't know. Who cares? What does that mean? What does that mean? They said, well, you know, Reagan tried. Every single president tried, and not one president was successful in getting it. I said, you got to be kidding. I love it now. And after that, we fought like hell to get Anwar. He talked me into it. This executive order reverses the previous administration's Arctic leasing ban. So hear that. Under this administration, we've ended the war on American energy. We've added more than 450 oil and gas rigs nationwide. We finally opened Anwar in Alaska. We approved the Keystone Pipeline. Keystone Pipeline. We got the Dakota Access Pipeline out of a lot of trouble. They had built it, but they had a little problem. They had a river, and they didn't have that permit. I gave it to them. Dakota Access Pipeline. Again, subject to terms and conditions to be negotiated by us. At the same time, we're strongly protecting the environment. We have to protect the environment. The United States has among the very cleanest air and water in the world. We are the best, and you want that, and I want that. I want clean air and beautiful, crystal clean water, right? We want that. People don't understand that about us. They don't understand that.
Just amazing, the depravity of this man. Instead of the war on American energy, he's declared war on biodiversity. Trump's claims that his administration is protecting the environment are pure fabrication. It's exactly the opposite. This is generally referred to as lying. Mind you, I can't call him a liar because that subjects me to harassment lawsuits. But again, a lie does not become the truth, no matter how often it is repeated. Donald Trump is a threat to humanity and all of life on Earth. We are not the only life on Earth. Without the rich biodiversity, our existence is threatened. It's incumbent on everyone concerned with the current and future generations of humanity and life on Earth to vote.
Dear young people,
don't vote.
Don't vote.
Everything's fine the way it is.
Trump, that was us.
He's our guy.
Tax cuts for the rich? Hell yeah, I'm rich as fuck.
Climate change? That's a you problem. I'll be dead soon.
Sure, school shootings are sad. But I haven't been in a school for 50 years.
I can't keep track of which lives matter.
Sure you don't like it. So, you'll like some meme on Instagram.
If the weather is nice, maybe you could go to one of those little marches.
You might even share this video on Facebook.
But you won't vote.
You young people never do.
But I do. I do.
I do.
Midterms, primaries.
Every single election.
We'll be there, but you won't.
Because we're a generation of doers.
Not whiners.
And we're doing great.
That video did go viral, and it did turn out a lot of young people. So I like to ask the question, what would Greta do? Because she's become the figurehead on the prow of the boat that's blazing a new trail. Very proud to have been the one to bring her to the COP last year. Greta left the U.S. with the simple message, climate message, vote. It's very important that we turn out a youth vote and a vote of those concerned with the environment at next year's presidential primaries and finally the election, because we know what the incumbent stands for. Now, again, Rollbacks An Assault Against Life on Earth is available for free to watch and download. And share, please. The directors encourage it to be downloaded. So here we go. We've got a little bit of time, Dan, to discuss some of the issues. Thank you for being a restraint on me. What would you have to add to what we've discussed? We discussed some points last night on the phone about, yeah.
Well, it was mentioned just briefly in one of the clips, but I think it's important to stress that the derangement goes well further than Trump. The Republican Party is the only major party in any major industrialized nation that is committed to global warming denialism. And it precedes Trump's ascension to power. That specific derangement, I think, helped pave his way to power. And you know, we meet today on the last day of COP25, and notably in the United States, it is the day that the House Judiciary Committee is voting articles of impeachment, the congressionally required remedy where a president has committed high crimes and misdemeanors. So we will know by the end of today what that vote will be. You ended with a question, what would Greta do? And she is a wonderful person, an inspiration for young people and old alike. But I'm more interested, frankly, in what people age 18 and over are going to do.
Come get registered to vote. You guys registered to vote?
It's a sad commentary on our times where we're needing to look for leadership from the young. What about the rest of us? What about those above the age of 18? We need to get busy, and time is quite short. The science is quite clear, and it's coming out continually. In fact, even yesterday, there was a report by NOAA on the Arctic decline of winter sea ice. This last year, the Greenland ice sheet melted at a rate 7 times its melt rate during the 1990s. So we face a current crisis, but it's in part, you know, a crisis of American politics. People here at the COP wonder what is happening with our country. And the rest of the world is struggling to endure and to continue this process, even while the United States president has committed to leaving the Paris Agreement. All of this is reversible, but much depends on what happens when the articles of impeachment reach the Senate, and even more importantly, next November, when the American public has a chance to, again, make a choice.
Thank you. We've got about a minute left. I'm not going to take questions. Questions we'll take out in the hall, but we spoke last night about Donald Trump's mental health, and you were more informed than I was. I'd like to know if you'd repeat what you told me.
Well, I mean, it's quite concerning. It's not only a question of the interests that he serves, but his own apparently deteriorating capacity. And you know, this is quite significant. I'm not quite sure what people can do about it, except that those moderates who are still undecided, I would recommend to take a close look at what is happening not only in Washington, D.C. and in the White House, but with respect to our own president's continuing fitness for staying in this position.
Now, we're out of time, so I want to thank, in a different way today, I want to thank those people who have been members of the team that supported me and helped me put this all together. Many of them are here. A few of them are at remote locations helping us over the cloud. And they've all contributed immeasurably to what we've been able to accomplish here, so thank you.
Thank you for your service, Stuart.
I'm Stuart Scott. Here's the contact address if you'd like it. And we've come to you live from COP25 in Madrid, Spain. Thank you.